Well-planned activities can play a big role in helping people with dementia make the most of their lives. And that's where the work of the occupational therapist comes in. Now, Julia Lurie is an occupational therapist specialising in dementia care. So, Julia, what is it that you and your colleagues actually do for people with dementia?
Occupational therapists work with carers and people with dementia to help them with their memory difficulties. They go into the home environment and look at practical solutions to help people with changing abilities.
OK, so why is it that occupation and activity are so important for people who've got memory issues?
Often people's self-worth is by the things that they do. So what we try to do as occupational therapists is give people advice to break down activities into bite-sized chunks that are achievable for people with dementia so that they can achieve and enhance their well-being. It's really important to set realistic expectations for the person with memory difficulties. And you might need to start the activity, set it all up and put everything away at the end of it for the person just to complete the activity for a very short period of time. But it's enhanced their well-being, which is the most important thing. And one of the activities that we've used is like paint by numbers, something like that, which I've seen a person with dementia get such a lot of pleasure from. It's really important for people with memory difficulties to have routine, so that meal times at regular times is important. Also day centres and clubs in the week is really helpful. But it's also important to have fun together and to share like a walk in the park and to actually have a sense of humour about the things in everyday life that perhaps sometimes are difficult, but to try and laugh at them is really important.
Keeping those we care for physically, mentally alert and still with it, as it were, and feeling valuable is quite a challenge. But we've always been a couple who do things together. So I'm still doing things, but having to take on more responsibility, having to find muscles I didn't know I could find. And it's a great joy. There's got to be a lot of laughter, and you've got to be able to laugh at the difficulty we're both feeling, the fact that we're getting older and it's a struggle, and we don't sort of put it down to Alzheimer's, but just that we're getting older. So I do things with him, and I see results. That's what's so wonderful.
OK, so how about some practical advice? I mean, what kind of activities do you recommend?
So one of the areas that we'd help recommend is the kitchen area. And one of the ways to make things easier for people with dementia is to be much more organised in the kitchen, to have things more clearly labelled and say tea, coffee and sugar to be in a prominent place so that they'd be more frequently used. And also food items maybe in the front of the cupboard so that they haven't got to go scouring for looking for things. But also to have the drawers labelled, so for example cutlery and cups with pictures maybe and the words, to make it clearer for people and more organised. Sensory stimulation, so looking at all the senses that we respond to and seeing how they help the person with dementia. For example, smell, so there might be different types of smells in aromatherapy, different types of bath oil in the bath. They might get involved in a bit of baking, they might not do the whole thing, but the smell of the baking that they would enjoy, or actually part of the baking itself. Exercises to music, and music, people can respond really well to different types of sound. And then there's reminiscence activities. People with severe dementia even can respond to reminiscence, perhaps photo albums. There's an album that you can actually record voices on, so they might have like the voices of their relatives on the different slides, which reinforces the people that you have in the pictures. And it's really important to reinforce the roles and the person with dementia that's been there in the past, and so they might actually be able to draw something from the images that they see. Social interaction, it's important to maintain relationships with friends and family and the roles that person's had, and it's contact with relatives, perhaps encouraging the person to be able to write cards to their grandchildren, even though they don't remember the dates, but just keeping that contact and part of the role for that person. And lastly, why not try new experiences? I know that carers and people with dementia have gone on cruises before now and enjoyed it immensely. Photography is also another good activity because you get an immediate result from those photos. And also massage and those sort of things are really helpful for people.
What are the key things to bear in mind when you're planning an activity?
It's really important to involve the person with dementia in decision making in what they do, and involve them in decision making throughout, really, on what they want to wear and the activities that they would like to do. And sometimes with people that are really impaired, it's good to give them the choice of physically saying, would you like to do this option or would you like to do this other option? Because it's really important to give them that choice over even small decisions in their life. Try to involve the person that you're working with as much as possible and give them choice in what they do. Help them to be clear about the decision making, give them clear choices and in short, brief sentences. Be relaxed, because obviously if you're anxious then they pick up on that. Be realistic about the activity that you engage in. In some cases, the whole activity is too much for them to complete. So keep things simple but not childish or childlike. Be organised, have all the equipment, materials to hand and plan ahead so that you've got everything that you need. Give one clear instruction at a time, keep it brief and to the point, and take small, achievable steps. Have fun and enjoy the activity together. Bear in mind, don't focus on the end result always, but actually the doing and the taking part is really important.